Acting is a team sport. We rely on our scene partners, castmates, and creative collaborators to bring the story to life. But what happens when that trust and connection just isn't there? Whether it's a clash of personalities, conflicting work styles, or just bad chemistry, working with another actor you don't like can turn a dream role into an emotional minefield. In today's episode of Casting Actors Cast, we'll explore the triggers behind actor-to-actor tension, the toll it can take, and how to navigate difficult dynamics without sabotaging the work or your sanity. This is Casting Actors Cast.
Casting Actors Cast, what a show! With Jeffrey Dreisbach, we're ready to go. From agents to gigs, learn what you lack. Tune in every week, we're bringing you back.
We're going to kick off the show right after this. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm casting director Jeffrey Dreisbach in New York with the McCorkle Group. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you for joining us on this episode. This is kind of a challenging episode, I think, because based on even personal experience, I learned a lot, not from those people that I really enjoyed working with, but also those times where there was tension or challenges working with another actor. And so it's an episode I think that's long overdue, and I'm really happy to share this information with you today. Speaking of that, if you haven't checked out our website, please do so. It's castingactorscast, all one word.com, castingactorscast.com. You're going to find some stuff there. One is a form that says dive into the talent pool. Filling that form out, give me your name and your email address if you would. I don't do anything with that. I don't sell it or spam it or anything like that. Like I said, I might on occasion send out an announcement about an upcoming episode, but nothing that's going to eat up your bandwidth. You know what I mean? Also, I am so happy about the course that's available through the website as well. Very easy to click on that course called Next Level Auditions. It really is a very comprehensive 1 hour, 6-module video course that I think you're going to get a lot out of to really take those auditions of yours into the next level. We cover topics that range from self-tape to cold reads. So you're going to find all kinds of really cool information about that. Also, my book is available. Booked it, The Actor's Playbook for Getting Cast. Also available on Audible, audiobook. I recorded the book myself, and boy, it was a challenge, but I really thought it was an awesome experience to record my book, and I think you're going to get a lot out of it. Please do consider those, and they all can be found at the website. Also, you can leave me a message there. There's all kinds of stuff going on the website at castingactorscast, all one word.com. And here's my shout out to my good friends at Actors Connection, actorsconnection.com. All right, I think that's it. I'm so thrilled to be on the Broadway Podcast Network. They're such wonderful people, and please let your friends and family know. Please let other actors know. If you care to share this information with some other actors, I would be so grateful to you. And of course, I'm always, I'm kind of shallow. I really, really need some kind of loving. So if you could write a review, if you could let me know that you're a listener, that you're enjoying the podcast, it just floats me in such a great way. It keeps me motivated to providing these podcasts to you. Okay, was that pleady enough? Was I kind of begging a little too much there? Maybe. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about not getting along with another actor. And let's first, I think there's value here in talking about why this happens. Because there are triggers for those kind of actor conflicts. Now, you may have had these already, or you may not have had these, and maybe this information is going to be something that you can use for future reference. But I think the number one issue is clashing personalities. And it took me a long time to discover that one actor's intensity is another's arrogance. Just because the actor that you're working with is intense doesn't necessarily mean that they're arrogant. Just because they're arrogant doesn't mean that they're not intense. So that's something to take a look at, is to really explore the motivations behind that kind or that level of discrepancy that you see between intensity and arrogance. There's also conflicting work styles. I don't know if you've had this experience. Maybe you have, but an actor who loves the method versus an actor who's just much more technically oriented, or the over rehearsing versus spontaneity issue that a lot of actors might have. Some actors don't like to over rehearse. They don't like to kind of work things out. They like to work things out on the fly. That might not sit well with you. And of course, that's what can cause some levels of tension. Then, of course, there are those power struggles. That actor that tries to dominate the scene, or they try to control the blocking for whatever reason. And again, I've said this in many episodes. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. But those kind of control issues are sometimes very off-putting for an actor. And so that is something that we need to just be aware of. That is potentially something that can trigger you. There's also insecurity projection. There's that jealousy thing or comparison leading to judgment, that maybe one role is getting a lot more attention from the director. That actor is getting all kinds of interesting positive notes and you're not getting much. Those kinds of things can really lead to creating an atmosphere that just feels kind of creepy. First of all, it's unprofessional behavior. You know, that kind of conditioning can only escalate unless you nip it in the bud. But other unprofessional behavior, I don't know if this triggers you at all or not, but chronic lateness, lack of preparation. There's also boundary crossing sometimes that takes place. It's just important to understand that these are pretty much can be common in a rehearsal setting, but early on is important to establish those kinds of boundaries, to establish those kinds of professional habits, and nipping that in the bud. If you find it bothersome coming from others, then we'll talk about in a second. We're going to talk about how to deal with that and how to go through that. Something that's really personal for me is what I call the offstage friction. Offstage friction is sort of like the personal life that bleeds over. When there's gossip, or perhaps your politics don't coincide with another's politics, that bleed over, or that kind of conflict can only exacerbate over time. And so I think there is a way in which that we can discover what their takeaways might be. The reason that this is personal to me is I had a really wonderful experience on Broadway in the play that I played a large role in, A Few Good Men on Broadway. I did over 500 performances on Broadway. And there was one actor in the play, and we had little to no sort of connection with each other other than one brief scene. And I can't even tell you what happened, which is kind of embarrassing. But I can't even tell you what the catalyst was. But we just got pissed off with each other. And I'm not sure what it was about. But I can tell you that we didn't speak for a long period of time. It was as if we kind of ghosted each other to each other on stage. That was so bizarre. But it happened more off stage than on, I have to say, only because of the nature of the roles we were playing. But it just was one of those things that we both sort of held on to this level of anger. Perhaps it was because of the characters we were playing. Perhaps it was just that we were tired of each other being together for such a long period of time. But that kind of scenario did color the experience for me. I'm happy to report to you that years later, when I got into casting, I actually brought this actor in for some roles. I actually brought this actor in and cast him in a couple of projects. And you know what? It's as if nothing happened. It was nothing we ever made reference to after that. And I guess that's okay. It is what it is. So what's my key takeaway? See, I don't believe that conflict, it doesn't always come from bad actors. It's often just simply a clash of values or a clash, sorry, of expectations that you have from another actor. But here's why it matters. Because it can impact on performance and it can impact on your process. How? Well, emotional energy. Emotional energy drains the scene, and that makes us suffer from tension or, heaven forbid, detachment. And you know what? Who suffers? The audience can feel the disconnect. I promise you. It can be subtle, it can be subliminal, but it can affect the performance. Actors may self-censor or shut down emotionally to cope with a situation, but also know that it can affect reputation or ensemble cohesion. Working with another group of actors where there's that kind of tension can often be challenging. Why? Well, there's risk of long-term resentment if it's left unaddressed. And we all can just embrace and understand that that kind of long-term tension can have detrimental residual effects, both personally and professionally. Let's talk about external actions. When and how to seek help. We're going to continue the conversation right after this. You have to ask the question, when do I involve a third party? When is the emotional situation to the point where I need to go outside of the situation in order to get professional help in the circumstance? Repeated boundary violations is pretty much the number one thing that would warrant going outside of yourself and the situation by going to somebody in the company. There's also, I hate to bring it up, but there's also safety concerns. It can be emotional or physical. When you feel that your performance is being affected and private efforts that you've made have failed, who do you go to? Well, in the case of theater, the first line of defense in that communication is the stage manager. The stage manager is there to keep the show cohesive and running. And if there's something that is altering your ability to do that work, that's the time that you need to go and address the stage manager. If you are in a rehearsal for a film or a television project, then that's the production context that you are in. Then it's important that you understand that the director and or the producer is there to help perhaps resolve those conflicts. Again, that would be a first line of defense. That would be the default go-to if you find yourself in that situation. Now, if you're in a kind of a high-stakes television show or a film, and you're working and not in rehearsal, but actually shooting, those are kind of high-stakes situations, and that's when it's important to go to your agent or rep, your agent or manager, because they can listen, they can process, and they can bring it to the other people that are involved in the project, should it be deemed necessary. So here's how to approach it professionally. If you find yourself in that situation that you need to talk to a stage manager, a director, or a producer, or your own agent, let me give you some advice about that. I want you to consider sticking to the facts. Do not over-emotionalize the situation. Sticking to the facts really helps you stay focused on keeping it non-emotional so that it is something that can be addressed. Feelings are not facts. Feelings are not facts. I love that phrase. Please do your best to avoid gossip or any kind of character assassination or character judgments. I think there is something to be said about offering potential solutions to a situation. You could decide that maybe you could adjust the blocking. Maybe you could reblock that scene in a way that doesn't or deflates the emotional context. Maybe there is a request that you have for taking or giving separate notes, doing it privately rather than in front of each other. So those are the kinds of creative ways to explore should you find yourself in that situation. But I also want to address some internal strategies, knowing what you can control. One thing you can control is your mindset reset, focusing on the work, not the person. You can do that if you separate the actor from the role. Don't take it personally. Also, practice emotional detachment with presence. In other words, stay committed, but protect your peace. There are some techniques that we can cover. So when you just don't get along with another actor, I think that there are some personal things you can do for yourself to help ease the situation. It might not necessarily wipe the issue away, but resetting and retracking your mindset can be quite valuable. One, set boundaries. For example, just control the warm-up time. Please do your best to limit backstage chat. Keep it very upfront. Keep it very professional. Also, I would consider using breath work or visualization for scenes. When you can do that before a scene, for example, that can help you refocus that energy into the work and not into the emotion. If you could practice scene partner neutrality, you would find that to be extremely valuable. Here's what I mean by that. Play the objective, not the actor. Play the purpose of the scene, not the emotional context of the scene. The emotion will be there, but if you are able to maintain and understand the objective of the scene, there's a lot less room for that speculative sensitivity. Ooh, good words. Speculative sensitivity. I think that those are ways that you can almost distract yourself. You can almost distract yourself by filling up the purpose and the objective of the scene. Also, reframe the situation. Treat it as an acting challenge to stay focused under pressure. That might be the answer to those conflicts. So, professionalism in the face of friction. Here's what you can do. Show up on time, prepared and grounded, even if others don't do that. Another, don't badmouth your coworker. It always comes back around. Remember that this is temporary, but your reputation is permanent. Having and stepping outside of yourself and understanding that can save you a lot of wasted time and energy. I think that your best revenge is your best performance, giving it all you've got. So here are some takeaways and some encouragement I want to give you. Please know that every castmate you work with is not going to be a soulmate. Let me repeat that. Every castmate you work with is not a soulmate. And you know what? That's okay, because growth often comes from friction as long as it's handled with integrity. See, integrity is not a bad word. It's something that you can stand behind. It is something that you can hold on to. You can be kind, respectful, and still protect your space. You don't have to like everyone, but you do have to be professional with everyone. I know this is kind of a challenging subject to talk about sometimes, but Because we're creative people, we're also sensitive. Because we're sensitive people, we are also hyper aware of our environment, and that includes the other people that we work with. Treat yourself with integrity and respect. Understand that everyone's going to have a slightly different approach to the situation than you might, and that is okay. Every experience you have is a learning experience. And your reputation as somebody who gets along with everyone is not a bad place to be, because the number one issue I get asked at an audition when you've left the room or left the Zoom audition is, how are they to work with? You see, your reputation as an actor goes equally as far as whether you are right or not for the role. So eliminate that part of yourself by not staying focused or concentrating on the conflict, but embrace the resolution. Okay, somebody write that down. That was really good. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this information helpful today. Please leave a like or a share. Please give me a thumbs up. I love thumbs up. Also, if you don't mind, please consider giving me a review. If you're listening on iTunes, for example, it would mean the world to me if you let others know about how you found this information. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. You've been listening and watching Casting Actors Cast. My thanks to the Broadway Podcast Network. Bye.
It's been great having you in our talent pool today. Your support means the world to us, so please consider sharing, liking, and reviewing this episode wherever you jump in. I'm Megan Grace Martinez. Thanks.
From monologues to screen